Carisha, how was it this morning? I ended up getting stuck, not being able to join. And I wanted to be there and applaud you.
Oh, thank you. No, it was a great turnout and I did feel live on YouTube.
Not being able to join.
What was this morning for you? My kid's fantasy. Screaming. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was exciting. Water, just water. Paper towels everywhere. Yes. Oh, yes. Sorry, do you mind just passing me that? Mine.
There we go. Hold those. I just. I think this was Simpsons.
We enacted the feature, so if you need to unmute. For me, I'm gonna give you co-host.
Perfect.
No, just polishing the chairs.
Only one.
Oh,
Okay. Well. Hold on. Hold.
gosh. What's for? Should be very much.
Give you co-host as
right.
well.
Yeah, congratulations to you. How is she doing? How is she now?
Almost 6. Yes. Under. Maybe half the time. I do need to talk to you about.
I have.
Then you're on the way out. Thank you.
We have a different.
Are you? Wasn't that invested in the comment? Maybe.
I probably
You shouldn't go to school in New York.
Somebody who basically. Oh, no. I said he's sitting here with her. And he's setting a new precedent, so that's his choice.
You know, she would go.
No, actually, we didn't.
No, please, let's find him this one. I mean, who's in the way?
Oh, yeah, they know.
All right, we'll get started in about 30 seconds.
Focuses.
Everybody, please sign in the sign-in sheet when you get it. When you come down. And, Danielle, can you pass the sign-in sheet to the? Oh, the not.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Danielle.
Yeah, I knew that was a good go.
Danielle, I'll look for you. Where are
I'll be voting on something.
All right, why don't we get started? We are live on YouTube. Thanks for joining, everyone. This is the first Land Use and Housing Committee meeting for CB2 of 2026. Really appreciate your presence. My name is Prameet Kumar. I am the new chair of Land Use. I want to thank the outgoing chair, Christine Hunter, who's been awesome these past 2 years. So why don't we get started? The first item on the agenda is the new development on 4417 Greenpoint Ave, the former Bliss Theater. I do have a presentation that I'll share, but I'm gonna hand it over to our guests. Who will speak a little bit more about it.
Sure. So, hi, everybody, in person and online, my name is Jasper Wu. I'm representing the sponsor and development team behind 4417 Greenpoint Avenue. I believe my sister Susan presented to this board a couple months ago. So we've made some further progress in our plans and our development, so wanted to kind of be proactive and come here and present some of our progress so far and get some feedback and show you guys what we're working on. With me is Nick from Archimedes, our architect behind the whole rezoning, and we prepared a brief presentation today about where we are in the whole process. So,
All right.
you can go on slides and walk.
Always really bad presenting, so let me see if we can get this to. Yeah, that seems close enough on full screen. All right.
So I think Nick will probably do most of the talking for this.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, everybody, for your time. I will try to make this brief. This first slide shows the site and its proximity to all the different transportation infrastructure. So as you guys know, this area is pretty well served. The 7's right there. There's a lot of buses. And you can also see that this site is smack dab in the middle of what is a pretty active commercial corridor, with the exception of our site, just because it's been the hall for so many years. So to the west of us, we have a supermarket across the street on all sides. We have some typical retail. If you could go to the next slide, please. You can see the same thing. You know, there's all this transportation infrastructure. Next slide, please. So right now you can see that we are zoned in R6A. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mind if I actually move on to that? All right, well, sorry. All right, so you can see we have an R6A right now, and we are very close to Queens Boulevard. And when we went to city planning first, what we knew was that the last time that they had rezoned this area was about 20 years back. So typically city planning, after about 15 years, will be open to hearing about some updates, because they always rely on the private developer to come to them and say, this on the ground has since changed, we need some density here, we need there. When you make an argument to them, then they either support or they will push back. So what we noted was that, you know, we have all of the transportation. We have this very well established commercial corridor, which has this gap over here. And we're also very close to Queens Boulevard. And what we see on Queens Boulevard is that there's been a bunch of rezonings to the east, further down over the past few years. And we see the R7X, which was, I think, the first R7X in the city that got established over here. And what we've been watching all over the city is that, you know, all of the city planning like agencies in each different borough are, you know, to varying degrees open to more and more density. So we thought that this looked like it was a good candidate site. So we went to them and they said, yeah, we also think it's a good candidate site. And we went back and forth a little bit about what the district would be. And we ended up settling at a mix of an R7X and an R7A. Can you go to the next slide, please? So you can see over here, what's also notable is that there's a lot of multifamily in this area. You know, you go further west, you get more into that downtown LIC MX district that it still has a lot of legacy manufacturing stuff. But we're very firmly in this area, which was actually one of the first areas that got a lot of multifamily housing in the 1950s and the 1960s. There's a few housing developments to the north that were the first wave that kind of predated the train coming out here. Next slide, please. So you can see these are some typical characteristic views of this commercial strip. you know, nothing, nothing really notable, but, you know, nice neighborhood scale. You know, serving the community, type of fabric. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is what we are proposing. You have the fast food spot to the north up there. And we would be bringing an R7A to the edge of our block. DCP hasn't really settled on the boundary yet. We suspect that they may ask us to end up rezoning the parking lot, just so it goes right up to the C4-4A up there, which is fronting Queens Boulevard there. And we spoke a little bit to the supermarket guy. It went back and forth. There really wasn't any real like progress with him, so we're not exactly sure what he wants to do. So we can't sit there and wait forever for people to make decisions. So this is what we've ended up going back to city planning with, and we'll see what they say about the final boundaries. Next slide, please. So this is a first like illustrative proposal at this scale that we've authored, and what we're doing is we're moving all of the bulk to the corner. And the main reason for this is that you can see that we have this street over here, Greenpoint Avenue, which runs at that angle from the other avenue, and it creates this condition at the corner where it's very open. And even if something that's in front of us gets built, you just have a sense of openness, which is not typical, just because you have these two streets so close together. So what happens on these corner sites is that they both because of the zoning characteristics, and also because of how you can fold program around cores that you put like in the corner, you could get a lot of efficiency. So what you could do is you could build something that has a lot of bulk, that has a lot of density, but it doesn't necessarily have to be as tall as it would be otherwise. So the R7X tops out at about 145 feet. We're about 20 feet underneath that at the front. And we could go, I think, even slightly lower if we have to. What we've proposed over here is something that we propose for every single rental building right now. Just because you're in a competitive market over here, you have to provide amenities. So we have a lot of rooftop green space, and we have some more stuff that's been programmed for the cellar. But again, at this point, this is extremely like preliminary, you know, so we're just starting to think this through. But the main party here is that we have something higher that's closer to the area where we won't be blocking out light, and then we have something lower, which is further up the block across the street from stuff that's 3 or 4 stories high. And that's where the R7A starts. So can we go to the next slide, please? As you can see, this is, you know, the main thrust of what we're doing. You know, we'd have these two different green roofs. ZD Jasper is one of the greenest builders in the city. We've done a couple of passive houses with them. Every single building that we do with them is, you know, as green as it gets. We don't do LEED. We don't really believe in LEED as a system. But we far exceed what LEED does. We put the money where it actually, you know, gets some sort of benefit towards making it a more green building. So next slide, please. You can see over here, this is the ground floor that we're proposing. We have retail and possibly community facility facing the corner. We think that this is a very lovely corner to have any manner of different retail uses, community facility uses. And then we have on the back side, closer to the boulevard, we have a community facility space which is currently programmed, but you know, it remains to be seen if that's what we're going to be doing. We have the two lobbies for the residences, one on Greenpoint Avenue, one on 45th Street. Next slide, please. And you know, this is just a very preliminary view of what this mass would look like on the street. You can see that we've gone to great pains to kind of keep it lower as you head further north, and then you can see the taller bit poking up over there. That's around the corner there. Next slide, please. This is boring. This is just all the zoning characteristics. You guys can parse it at your leisure. And I think that's it. That's my presentation, and thank you for your time.
So when you say,
the community facility space that you've identified, is this where you envision what you've been talking with Risha about, or?
Well, right now, we're kind of up in the air with it. Nothing has been decided. We spent a lot of time over the summer trying to make that work. And there was pressure from the council member. There was a little bit of lack of coordination, I think, on like all of our parts. So, you know, that's when we were also asking for the higher zoning district. And so now, as of right now, we're not really offering anything. So,
So the community space that you said is currently programmed, but if that remains to be seen, what does that mean? Is there like a different community partner you're?
No,
considering for-
no, we're not talking to anybody, you know, but of course we want to work with you. So, you know, so we did leave it open.
You're not talking to anybody,
Yeah.
but you want to work with, I mean, you have been talking with Carisha.
Well, the last time we were all having a meeting was like in the summer.
Yeah.
Right,
And everybody was aware of that, and that was
Yeah.
the last time.
okay.
Yeah.
We got.
And that was yeah,
We got a-
oh, okay, really, okay.
So-
You got
There
a
was-
ton of pushback about
Back from
that.
the council member, just
About-
with this program particularly.
The council member doesn't want the theater.
Not that she doesn't want the theater, but it just seemed like you met with them.
I wouldn't say it's pushback, it's just, I say we're open to the idea of giving something back to the community here, whether it's dedicated space or this kind of space. But we weren't sure like, what's the best way to go about it, like, who would be running the space, who'd be using the space, like, who's it for? I think we're open to putting it there, but as part of the building's programming, it's kind of unclear what's the best way to proceed with incorporating it into the design.
Yeah, because I think last summer, it was a significantly different design. I think under the impression that with, potential of a community space, there would be a higher build. But I think this was now kind of like a revamp of that approach.
Yes, the original proposal was an R8, which would be a 7 something, right?
Yeah.
8 FER, which obviously it's more. So this one we're reducing down to 5.5 FER.
Yes, Mark.
Just
And then we'll
quick
go
follow-up
to online.
questions. One is, let's see, one question is, when you say you got pushback from the council members of the office, was that on the community space or just the size of what you were proposing originally?
More about how it worked, who would be operating it, was it for?
So it wasn't about the density of the building, it was more about just the community
Well,
space.
I think there wasn't really like a lot of specific feedback. It was just like kind of just mentioned in passing, but there was some concerns about the height, and then
I think we had all seen like zonings that got bogged down just because there were like stakeholders that were, you know, jockeying for different things. And so, you know, stuff just got like really dragged out. So I think she did bring that up, and we also saw that also. So, you know, we didn't want to get like stuck in a situation where we're waiting for something to happen for years basically. And then, you know, because often what happens too is that when you have a significant program, city planning will sometimes ask you, make them a co-applicant. And that's extremely fraught, you know, because if you have somebody that's there and it's not like a, you know, like a really established thing, it could really mess with the entire application.
So you're still open to community possible stuff, and then the top of the rooftop green space that you're showing.
Yeah.
That's for the benefit of the tenants, not for the public, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Teresa, should we take as a follow-up to reach out, maybe the Arts and Culture Committee to the council member and figure out what the issue is?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Is anyone from the council member's office here?
Ellie's on the call, I think.
Oh, is Ellie on the call?
Yeah.
Ellie, do you want to speak to, if you know,
Yeah,
the
that's
council
okay.
member's concerns? Oh, I have to unmute her.
She's further under breath.
Yeah, she's the one running it.
There you
Oh, she's like, I don't think, okay.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Hey.
Hi. So thank you for flagging this. I unfortunately started at the council member's office after these conversations, I believe, so I don't have a clear answer for you all about her perspective on the project, but I can definitely follow up.
Yeah, let's take it as an action item and figure out what the thoughts are there. Cool, let's go to Sheila online.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm not there with you in person. So I have a couple of questions. One is a couple related to the community space in general. Like you had a couple of different areas in each of the designs specifically dedicated to community space. What is the total square footage that you are proposing to dedicate to community facilities versus your commercial facilities?
Right now, we have not cemented anything, so it's very much an open question. We just have a total area on the ground floor, which could be put towards either community facility or retail.
Well, what is the total usable square feet that's available on the ground floor?
I believe it's about 12,000 square feet, 12,
That's
13,000.
usable. That doesn't include your entryways, your emergency exits, where the garbage gets put out. Is that the usable square feet specific to community and commercial facilities?
Yes, it's not the entire floor.
Okay, great. What's the ceiling height on the ground floor?
14 feet,
That's 14-foot raw?
14-foot clear, yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, I am certainly, and I think a number of us in this room believe that the space dedicated to the arts programming and working with Carisha is critical to our community. We have lost a lot of art space. You're coming into a neighborhood that is vibrant because of arts and culture. And there are many ways that this can be done. I don't know what the concerns were with the council member's office or other. I mean, I actually think a condoed out space would be the best alternative and an investment from you as a developer toward, that would be super helpful. So I just want to put that out. And I have worked with different developers on condoing spaces out specific to arts and cultural facilities. So I'm happy to provide Carisha with all of that. Carisha, whatever you need, I'm there. The other thing is something that struck me that you said, which I found very interesting, is you spoke about how you had to add back in all these amenities because it's a competitive market.
Yeah.
And what struck me about that is that there's a lot of, and there have been developments in the city where community spaces have been removed because that was square footage that could be dedicated to apartments. And since housing is so critical, I actually bring this up here to go back to the council member's office, whatever other electeds are listening, and for land use, that community internal amenities are actually decreasing the way community interacts. Because once you have your gyms inside and everything, then studies have shown, this is not like something I'm making up, that people stay in their buildings. So I would actually be, a voice for that square footage being dedicated to apartments and housing, as opposed to gated community amenities. So yours is not the only, project that I'm saying this for. But the fact that it's competitive because people want gated communities is an issue to me. We should be building housing so that we build communities, and that's square footage that is being taken away from housing. So I, just want to put that out there. So
That's fair. That's a fair point, but I would also add that the way that the city of Yes rewrote the deductions, now it's basically you get up to 5% of the total gross. So it's actually not taking away anything. And what we see is that developers will basically max that number out, but it does not detract from anything else. So I think there's a world where everybody can have everything. Like we can have.
I disagree with you that maybe what's in City of Yes, but the fact of the matter is there is square footage that is being dedicated to a bunch of Pelotons and not to bedrooms. And so I'm not saying it's your fault. I said I'm putting this out there so electeds hear it as well, is that we are decreasing the way community interacts by allowing these internal gated community amenities to continue to be built.
All right,
So I know.
to the next question.
Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a urban design comment really, and that would, I hope city planning will listen to and would apply to all rezonings in this neighborhood, that I think this is not Long Island City. There's a real tradition in Sunnyside of green space as you walk on the street, and even there's a lot of them, 7-story buildings around here, and it's, north of Queens Boulevard, if you look, but also some south, have a planted strip along the sidewalk. And I think the last time you presented, I talked about setting back on the side street to allow for that planted strip. But what I see here is just continuous building to the street line.
Mhm.
And I think it's very dull, monotonous, and also it kind of takes away from the neighborhood that sense of greening, even when, it's a bigger building, and we're not building garden apartments here, I understand that, or houses, but I think it would make a big difference if that kind of strip planting along the side streets could be preserved and required, and would differentiate it from the commercial areas on the avenues. So I would really ask that be incorporated, or you rethink your massing to allow for a planted strip, on the side street, maybe the R7A portion as opposed to the R7X portion.
Yeah, that's a lovely idea, and we've done that on several projects, and we've also not that Mitch you I think they don't want to do, but we do bioswales in the sidewalks too. So basically, we kick those back in from detention tanks. So it's like
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's really lacking in Long Island City.
it is, and you're
Yeah,
right.
and-
It just feels kind of like gross. Everything is like close in.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, and
yeah.
so I hope Sunnyside can retain some of what is Sunnyside.
Yeah, I think, yeah. we should-
I think an action item would just be to send us photos of examples and then take a look.
Okay, but I think from a massing point of view, that's pretty clear.
It's also a unique opportunity because this would be probably the second residential building along Greenpoint Avenue in the last 10 years. And so it'd be a real opportunity to set a precedent, with other expected developments happening, to green the south side of Sunnyside.
Cool. Let's do Danielle and then Michael.
You mentioned, the grocery store guy. This was not, forgive me, I don't remember the last meeting, but this wouldn't outplace a grocery store. And I will just be really clear that I live in Long Island City where there is a grocery store problem. But my concern would be replacing a grocery store that people who will live in this building would need. And considering if there is retail space to have that grocery store there, but I'm not even sure you're actually evicting a grocery store.
No.
Why
Okay.
not?
Yeah, It's not,
It's
it's
just
separate,
adjacent.
that's okay, but usually what happens when you rezone, they want you to rezone neighboring properties,
Right.
so that would
Oh,
be
okay,
how
but
it
it's
could
the
be
whole,
involved.
okay.
But it would be entirely separate.
I will also say, I do live in a building in Long Island City with amenities, and then it's not the reason that I picked the building, but when you don't have enough park space, it becomes something really important. But I think a better way for that to happen is to have enough park space, so there doesn't have to be a private park in a building, basically.
I think that's right.
All right, Michael.
He's
Sorry, hold on, let me unmute you one sec.
up one. Oh, no.
Good, thank you. Yeah, it took a sec for me to get unmuted. Hey, I'm Michael, I'm on the community board. Thanks for continuing to kind of engage with us on the project. I guess I had a couple of basic questions and then maybe I'll just share some comments, but basic questions. So just like purely from my understanding, not some like deeper subtext or anything. This is so you're proposing an upzoning, and is that upzoning going to trigger MIH?
Yes,
Cool. And under the as of right zoning, like there's not an MIH requirement, right?
correct.
Okay, cool. So
But
that's
that's also something that's a little bit nuanced, because if you go for the 485X, it's basically equivalent to what MIH would be asking you to do.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So the rebate would also require, the tax abatement would require affordable housing. Yeah,
Correct.
but
And
like the tax abatement wouldn't apply to like adjacent properties though, for example, whereas the ULURP would impose MIH on adjacent properties because you would rezone adjacent properties.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah,
Under-
okay, cool.
under
Good to know.
Yes, so if you go for some of the increased bulk that's allowable, doesn't that also trigger some affordability?
Yeah.
Well,
Even-
if you do,
But
if
no,
you do,
it's technically as of right, I mean, it wouldn't require a ULURP,
No,
right,
Correct.
so,
yeah. You
well,
go
there's,
3.0 to 3.9.
right.
yeah, there's the UAP, there's the voluntary affordable housing stuff, which is a zoning incentive, and then there's MIH, which is, yeah, anyway, get into it. But thank you for clarifying the MIH point.
Sure.
I guess, as a sort of higher level comment, I mean, I wasn't in these negotiations, obviously, but like I live in this neighborhood, I walk past this area all the time. It's a little odd to me that it's not very clear to me why having a shorter height close to the Wendy's parking lot is like particularly important. And a world like most of the site north of you is a parking lot, which is the Wendy's. And in a world where like there was a bigger building, but there was a guaranteed community space, that would strike me as someone who lives in the neighborhood as a better situation than protecting the Wendy's parking lot from being next to a bigger building. So obviously there's a longer conversation there that I'm not privy to, and I know the council members involved, but from my perspective, you know, a 7-story versus 11-story is not like particularly important, but having like a guaranteed community space would be a huge win. So to the extent that that stuff is still ongoing, I think that would be really cool. But I guess ultimately, like what's important to me is getting more housing and especially more affordable housing in the neighborhood. So I'm glad that, you know, you're taking an approach that will require affordable housing and that will also kind of set the stage for nearby properties having an affordability requirement. So I'm excited to see that. And thanks for answering the MIH questions.
Hey, two related questions to what Michael talked about. One, which MIH option are you considering right now? Or are you open?
We're open, probably either option 2 or option 1.
Okay. Our board generally has professed an interest in deeper affordability. So just keep that in mind. And the other is, so you've changed the zoning from R8 to R7 A, and you're also not building to the maximum height allowed at R7A. Can we talk a little bit about the decision to not build to the maximum height?
Sure. So you prioritize for height when there are views. There's not really views here, so it makes sense to do something that's more efficient. So you can get equally nice units at this lower height. And again, it's because it's at the corner, so you can get something that's a little bit more bulky, you get less of a loss factor.
Do you get the same number of units?
Sometimes.
I think our board has also expressed a preference for more units in general, so if that's.
Oh, yeah?
Well,
Okay, sure.
It's not the expensive studios versus.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't see an overall unit mix breakdown, but looking at the floor plans, it looks as though you're including a substantial number of 3s and as well as quite a number of 2s. I mean,
Yeah.
and I really appreciate, I mean, I think we really appreciate
Yeah.
that, even if it's less total units. I mean, we have to understand that there's a trade-off there.
Yeah.
You know,
Agreed.
the way to get the highest number of units.
Yeah, but if there's an ability to build another floor with more 2s and 3s, I think we would be in favor of that.
Yeah, but you're maxing out the zoning under the R, you're maxing out the square footage here, you're
Yeah.
just not.
Oh, all right, okay, understood, okay, got it.
Yeah.
And
So anyway,
the thing
thank
about the
you.
R8 also, is that the R8 it gives you some extra density. And it's at the same height as the R7X, you know, so
But this is in response to the council member.
this is in response actually to city planning, we went back and forth with them, and they were the ones that were actually pushing back against doing anything beyond R7A to the north. And we felt the same as this gentleman before, we just thought that it didn't make sense because you want to keep I think you wanna keep the corner lower, because that's like further south, you know, so you wanna kind of step up and away, you know, and, but they didn't wanna do it, and, I get what they're saying, from a standpoint of like other future rezonings, because if you do that, then you're basically bumping it up maybe a little bit too high, to what they're currently comfortable with what they would entertain on Queens, like Boulevard, but, you know, again, it wasn't super clear.
Yeah. Let's go to the gentleman from Talia Theater. Then and saw that.
Yeah, I would like to ask, what are you planning if you don't get the rezoning? Will you still do it at R6A as it is, the property these days? I'm saying that expressing my concern because without already having the approval for the rezoning and all that, now you've demolished the whole interior of the theater and all that, so then it's not anymore possible to do other kind of things as has been done in other places of mixed use of the still having a community, a cultural center, and then above build affordable housing and that combination. No? So because I know that in June, when I was here, you were presenting to have R8A going to building 13 floors high.
That's right.
Now you're lowering into, but with a community cultural center
That's
inside.
right. That's right.
Now you are saying you're gonna do the 7A going to 11 floors, right? Without the community center.
Right.
Right? So I would like to know if then you don't get the rezoning permit, and will you still be able to build? It makes you know, sense for you with the units that you will be building in 6A?
Well, the short answer is yes. This site, it works as of right. It's 3.9 FER as of right. So if we don't get the rezoning, we would build as of right.
Do you think you would do condos? Do you think you would do rentals or?
I don't know. Most likely not.
Cool. All right, last round of comments. All right, let's go to you.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Well, just very quickly, one thing I know we did discuss and discuss this fall, which doesn't affect bulk at all, is some sort of street level historic display about the theater. And we looked at elements that are you still, is that still on the table, or are you saying that's no longer on the table?
So we have preserved some elements from the theater. We preserved almost all the seats, a bunch of railings, plan to preserve from the columns in front, and a bunch of other stuff. And that stuff is just sitting in a warehouse in Connecticut at the moment. We have the option to bring it back to the community or somehow incorporate into this building, but would like to see, would probably like to hear more from the community board, like what they have in mind for that kind of stuff. Whether they just want it to be in the community and just take it or incorporate it into the design somehow, because at the end of the day, this is a private building. So it is, you know, I wasn't too sure how.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that it did not completely, that it was never completely designed, but I think speaking for myself, at least my understanding was always that it was gonna be on site and somehow part of the street level design of the building. How that could happen, it could happen at the break, you know, between the commercial and the residential, or it could be around the residential entrance, but it should be in a prominent place that where everybody walking past the building understands, you know, has a really nice interpretive display that, you know, preserves some elements, lets them understand what was there and why it was an important part of the community. I don't know, Carisha, did you have a different understanding?
Oh, yeah, that was understanding. And yeah, you know, as we go along too, we're also happy to formally, you know, more input through our community to the community once we kind of get final inventory of what things are looking like and what the design plans are looking like.
Yeah, I mean, if you want more design interaction or sketches or anything, we're happy to offer that. It's kind of hard in the absence when the building. I mean, it's easier to coordinate with the building if we know what ideas are for the building, but we certainly hope that can be preserved, and that's not, I don't think that's a huge ask to incorporate that kind of what.
And thank you for saving all that stuff.
Yes,
Of course.
yeah.
And I imagine that there's a lot that you won't be able to use. You have all the seats from the theater still. I wonder if there's something the Arts and Culture Committee would recommend that there's some use that someone else could have. So,
You guys want
So you-
seats? or-
But I think but you're basically working with what's the right word? A preservation salvage operation,
That's
right? Where they take the stuff, they take it, they warehouse it, and then they reuse.
gotcha.
It's like all up in this guy's warehouse, who was, when we went on site to kind of look at some of the things and like point out the things that we were interested in trying to preserve. Yeah, I think he was personally very interested in a lot of seating, and we're like, wait a second, that's from our neighborhood first, so. That gentleman also, just for context, he has his own theater, near his warehouse, I think, in Connecticut, so I think he had his own, interests, but, yeah, he can be involved in how do you use, get some of that stuff back. He can be more specific on that.
Let's go to Nick and then Sheila to close us out.
Two quick comments here. One, I definitely speaking for myself, I would love to see additional height in this, and so I think our committee should discuss a letter of support for greater level of zoning to enable a higher tower and more family oriented units, which I'm very impressed with the units mixed in this as is, and we'd love to see that extended to a larger part of the larger building.
Is that something the developer wants
What, a letter of support?
for a higher level of zoning in
Oh,
R8?
Yeah, we would love, or, yeah, we kind of got shut down from that on DCPs.
Yeah, but that being said, that's the first step towards actually going back. If we could get that from you, and we could also get some support from a council member, you know, DCP would then.
I do think it's worth it for our committee to discuss that.
Yeah.
I think the committee needs to.
Yeah.
We need to discuss.
We also should have a discussion with DCP to get some clarity around the feedback that we gave.
Let's add this to next time's agenda, because hopefully by then we'll get what the council members' thoughts are, and we can have a robust discussion around it.
Okay, the thing though, that's always anathema to, you know, to these applications is any type of delay, because what we see happening over the years, like there's always every few years something happens, whether it's COVID or there's something else happens, so we have applications that unfortunately get caught in these like cycles of things, and then it just spins out. And so we're just very, very, you know, careful to maintain some sort of sense of urgency, just so we don't get bogged down by like where it's going next, you know.
So since you are, you know, proposing a rezoning and a ULURP, you have a time.
Sorry, I have one more comment.
Ideal time that you want to be certified.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think we should get certified by the end of the summer, I think, right?
Yeah, we'd like to enter Europe middle of this year and then hopefully break ground early next year.
Sounds good.
Katie, do you have comments on?
This is actually not one of my projects, so I don't have like sightlines into where they're at in the application process and what a reasonable start date would be.
You know, this project.
So my other comment was that I very much appreciate the not wanting to bog this down, and I think that that's something that we agree with. We need housing desperately in this community.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are 5 people in this room, and this is not even the Arts and Culture Committee, who own or run decades old plus arts organizations. And we in this board have rapidly approved projects in the past that have included co-applicants. And so just in terms of, I understand that you're already in discussion, but we look very kindly on that and have done that quickly here. And so if there is a way of moving that forward, I know personally, I would look very kindly on that.
Okay, I mean, we could open it back up.
Yeah, I think it would just be like, who is the co-applicant? That would just be
I
a
mean,
question.
we have the Queen's Dance, we've got Kenny who runs an art studio, got Angel who runs a decades old, you know,
48.
when there was a National Art Endowment for the Arts funded theater. We have Sheila, who was the executive director of a 20-year-old, you know, not-for-profit organ. So it's just, there are many options here, and further discussion on that front would be fantastic.
We're happy to also discuss, you know, especially since we just went through the one OIC ULURP, there was a lot of co-applicant models that we were looking at that would provide more sustainability, because your average arts organization in this neighborhood specifically is a small one. But very heavily involved in service to the community, so we can talk about that in our committee. if you want.
Okay. We were very, very struck when we first started to look at this by how arts intensive the entire neighborhood was, and
Yeah.
that was really the backbone of the first proposal. You know, so we hear what you're saying. I think that you guys have to like externally talk about this.
Yeah, like it's just, this is one co-applicant, right, so it's like. Who would it, like, I know there's a lot of qualified people in future, but.
We'll share some of the models that we have been, frankly, shopping around and want to see. So yeah, happy to discuss that.
Okay. Yeah, we just asked that there be some urgency behind it, just so we don't get bogged down, you know.
Sure, yeah.
All right, Sheila.
Just quickly on the heels of the discussion, and so just a direct question, are you interested seriously in incorporating a permanent art space in your development?
Yeah, we'd be open to having some kind of community facility at probably a discounted rent.
Okay, because I'm just feeling deflated because we had all these great conversations earlier, and then this just feels like the interest is gone. So if you're saying directly that you are interested, I think you know there's conversation to be had.
Okay, well, the fact that that this offer to, you know, support the higher height is there makes it very, very different, you know, than what we had discussed earlier, and I think that's also the first step in going back to the council member. You know, but but again, time is not our friend here, so.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a lot of organizations that are also urgently needing space, so we know it too.
All right, Anatole, close us out. Last comment.
Yep, very quickly, just reiterating the request and the support for more 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms, especially, you know, we have families in this neighborhood leaving not in droves, but they are leaving because, you know, some people can't graduate from a 1 bedroom on 46th and Skillman and, you know, have to go to Long Island. So yeah, just reiterating that support, you know, would love to see an increased number of family-oriented units, especially if they can just go downstairs and support all the great artists in our district. So yeah, thanks for that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So I am taking 5 follow-up action items from this. 1, we're gonna ask the council member what her concern is about the cultural space and figure out what happened there. 2, we're gonna find out from VCP why they recommended downzoning to R7A. So we'll get more information. Once we have that, in our next meeting, our committee is gonna discuss whether we want to support going back to the higher zoning, the R8A. And then we owe you 2 pieces of information. 1 is examples of the greening that Christine mentioned. So if you have any to share, that would be great. And the other is more info on the co-applicant model, which Carissa is gonna
Sure.
help with.
And probably also ideas on how to incorporate the salvage type.
Yes. Yeah.
Or guidance.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. I know this is totally voluntary. You don't need to be here because you have hasn't picked up, but I appreciate the dialogue that you started with us.
The ongoing dialogue and the receptiveness to all of these things. We know these conversations are not always easy.
But we take it seriously that
appreciate it.
that this is like civic action at scale, and you know, it's gotta be a good addition, you know. So, yeah, thanks for having us.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Next up, let's go to city planning.
Welcome. You're all to stay.
What's on the docket?
VCP update?
Yeah, so I'll start with my personal update. I, at the end of the month, will be moving, out of the Queen's office to the Bronx office. So I'll still be with DCP, and, as part of that, Fagala will be taking over as community district liaison. And then also as part of that, Colin will be moving into Hickham's position. Hickam will still be with the Queen's office, so, you know, all of our emails have stayed the same. If like, if you guys need us, like, we're still there. But like, in the future, Colin and Fagala will be your go-tos, for like, you know, everyday CB2 stuff.
And so this is gonna be their project?
Yeah, so 4417 is Fagela's project,
Okay.
so she's had it every step of the way, so she's very aware of all these conversations. We'll obviously watch this video tomorrow, so, you know, she'll be up to date for sure.
She'll be coming starting next month,
Yeah, I believe that's the plan.
every month all the time.
Right. So before I like get into actual project updates, I just want to say like, thank you to you all. You all have been really great to work with. I've worked on projects in the past where the community doesn't even participate. So to have you guys like come and like do all the working group stuff and actually prepare the questions and listen and work with us is really special. I really do appreciate it. So
Thank you for all your
Yeah,
work.
thank you.
Good luck in the front. No, when I was Steve was mines.
yeah.
You're like, bye.
I live pretty close by, so like this is like an extension of my neighborhood too. So I'm here all the time. So it's
Notice
fun
you
to
didn't
meet
say
you.
she'd visit.
Well, on that, I am actually gonna be keeping one project, from Queens. So 2131 46th Avenue will be my project, so you will see me, probably in like April, March, April, sometime in there, so you're not quite getting rid of me quite yet, but the everyday stuff will move to Fagala.
That's the TD Bank that you were talking about,
Yeah.
the TD Bank site in 46.
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah, so this is the TD Bank next
Oh,
to the
okay.
Lumpiest one. There have been people who came to this board or this committee in the past expressing opposition. So I'll probably reach back out to them and tell them to come back to the committee when we discuss it. I don't, I have their emails, so I'll reach out.
Maybe we could do over outreach, because I think there's also a lot of people. who are
For sure.
Not.
Yep, for sure. But I know they specifically wanted to be kept informed, so we'll reach back out to them. I saw that the application was filed a couple weeks ago. Do you know when it'll come to us?
So at this point, and I'm semi-confident in this certification date, it looks like it's gonna certify the first week of March.
Okay. They have a little time.
Yeah, so we have a little bit of time. They have a couple of like revisions that they need to clean up, before we get there, so, yeah, so I'm thinking this one will come in pretty soon. And then for next month, it looks like the Walk to Parks application is on track and should be on your February agenda.
Awesome, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So are you saying they would come to the full board to present
Let's see, I
in
think
in February?
for the 46th Ave project or for Walk to Parks?
Walk to Parks.
Okay, Walk to Parks, we can coordinate, like, if you guys can make a request, do you want them to come to the full board first or come to the committee first?
That's gonna be a ULURP action, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so probably do it the normal ULURP way. That's cool.
February 18th would be our meeting, and then maybe March.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what they come to us with.
So I can pass that note along to Fagala, to pass it on to Parks. But then, yeah, if you guys want to discuss the 46th Avenue project, that is really the end of my updates. So,
What is it in a nutshell? Cause I missed that last meeting.
okay. So, sorry, I've been cleaning up all of my projects. I'm trying to remember which is which. So they will be rezoning, from, like something in the R6 family to an R7X with a commercial overlay. It's the same district that's on that corner, it's just gonna be pulled over. So they're proposing, I believe, like, yeah, an 11-story building. So it'll be a mix of uses, predominantly residential, but with ground floor space for commercial or retail, or excuse me, commercial or community facility space. They haven't like finalized like who would be occupying those spaces quite yet.
So the bank would be leaving.
They have not confirmed
Okay.
or denied that
Got it.
TD Bank would be, you know, either staying or leaving.
That parking lot is part of the building, or the parking lot stays?
Parking is proposed, but it would be in the cellar, so.
The parking lot would go
So the parking lot would be a building and the parking would be hidden under the. Yeah, I know, especially in that area, it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that's tight there.
Yeah,
Okay,
Well, excited
Thank
for it to
you.
come to us.
yeah.
looking forward to it too.
Yeah, thanks for everything you've done, and Colin, looking forward to working with you.
Likewise, yeah, I saw many of you over the last year or so in the LIC process, so I'm happy to be coming back here a little bit more often. Nice to meet you all again.
Cool. All right, a couple of things on my end. One thing that I wanted to discuss in the first meeting of the year is a lot of times our committee is very reactive to the rezonings that come to us. And I want to make sure that we're doing, at least a few things that are proactive. So I wanted to get people's thoughts on what are the things that we want to proactively do in 2026. Let's come up with a list of a few things and we'll make sure that every meeting we're making some progress. I have a few ideas on my end, but why don't we start with thoughts on people's minds?
Clearly, we want to keep on, the case with one LIC.
Yes.
And, do our best to assure that it matches our vision as much as possible.
Yeah, 100%. That was my number one. I think we need to keep tracking and advocating for all the things that were promised to us. I know there's going to be that committee that Councilmember Juan is forming, and I'm sure there's going to be some overlap between us and that committee, but I think we have a pretty important role to play to make sure that all of that stuff's happening. So yes, totally agree.
I also think specific, like even within one LIC, making sure we are staying in very close communication with EDC and the public site. I haven't had a meeting with them in a while, but I guess I should, because I just decided to call them up and request things. One of which was, I know that there's going to be an RFP, the RFP is coming out, and they were planning on basing the requirements of the RFP based on the interests that were submitted, but only specific to the building.
Sorry, which RFP are you talking about?
The one for the DOE building.
Oh, gotcha.
But because they wanted those submissions to inform the use of the entire site, I thought there was going to be some, there was maybe a missed opportunity for, our input on parkland and just like a comprehensive planning of that entire site. It shouldn't be just dictated by the very structured parameters that was for that request of interest.
Yeah.
So I think we should get ahead of that a little bit and maybe try to talk to them and figure out where they're at in that process and
Yeah.
put in our requests for how we should be getting our input for the entire site beyond the building.
That's a good one. I know the DO building was a sort of linchpin in a lot of the one LIC waterfront stuff, so it'll be good for us to stand on top of that. I like that. What else do we have, Danielle?
Related to one LLC, I think many of us do this anyway, but I think advocating for, because I know we're getting some infrastructure money from the city, or a lot of it actually, but I think we should be advocating to the state to also pony up, especially when it's related to transit, because that's the state agency.
Yeah.
But also sewers, because that is not something that the city alone can fund.
Cool. Yeah, I'll make note of that. Let's go to Michael and Sheila online.
Thanks. And thanks for this conversation. I think it's really a good one for us to have. I would like us to kind of keep pushing for and continuing to advocate for I guess a neighborhood plan and rezoning of Northern Boulevard and Roosevelt Avenue. I think more than 2 years ago, prior to my joining the board, the community board voted for this, and that resulted in, the council member doing a council member sponsored neighborhood study, the Heart of the District study. We got some of that back last time. I know also like the budget proposal prior to my joining the board, and then also I know this time around, because I was involved, has asked for this kind of study. And I saw that DCP's response to our previous request in the budget for this was basically like, we're focused on one LIC right now, come back to us next year. And now that it is next year and we're done with one LIC, I wonder if we can kind of continue to raise attention to that.
Yeah, I love that one. And I think there's two things I'd like to do on things like this. One is definitely keep pressure on elected officials to develop more of that full comprehensive plan. And the other is, in the absence of that, or while we're waiting for that, we ourselves can't put together a whole plan. We don't have, the resources for something like that. But what I would love to do is put together, a shorter, just like list of high level priorities that we want in a plan like this. I know we had a very deep comprehensive list of priorities for one LIC. It obviously doesn't need to be, 12 pages or whatever, but if we can put together a couple of pages on what we want to see out of that area, I think that can be helpful as the city starting on its own plan. That's a really good one. Let's go to Sheila and then we'll go back to people here. Sheila, do I need to unmute you again? All right, go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks for this. I think it's great and proactive. One of the things would like us to think about comprehensively is the entire district is a real needs checklist. I do find that city planning and we have been responsive because majority of it's private development. But to get ahead of it, like what is the park space? What, like for the full district, what every resident should have within walking distance. So that when each project comes to us, we are referring to that list as opposed to like just looking at Northern Boulevard or just looking at Annabelle Basin or just looking at Blissville. So, there's parks, there's sewers, there's publicly accessible, affordable community spaces, which we are not getting because of all the private development. And so we're not getting shared spaces. There's also the COPA Act, which I think is a good act for us to be taking a look at to follow. That's the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act, and community land trusts. So just these are things that affect the entire district, so that we're not just responding to one or two areas.
Sheila, how would this be different from the statement of needs that the board already does?
The statement of needs is, it's not a checklist. It's not getting specific. Like, we know that New Yorkers for Parks says that we should have a certain number of park space, a certain amount of park space. We don't. So that would be something that the land use can be advocating for because that is about land use. We know there should be a certain number of school seats. These are things that are what is our criteria for our livable and workable community, that we need something like that so that we are looking, what is it for every person who lives here?
Cool. Let's
That is
talk more
different
about
than the
what
statement of
we see
needs,
that,
because the statement of needs is just narrative. It's not specific.
Cool. All right, who had hands? I'll get to Brad after.
And our workout.
You mentioned are not having surgeon expertise and things.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe as a new administration, we can get a little more traction on, which is that several years ago when they created term limits for community board members, part of the trade-off was that community boards were supposed to receive a land use expert, advisor, which is something that the Adams administration kind of dragged their feet on. So created a governmental share of that advisory bill, but it never came to fruition.
Yes.
So I'd like to see some movement there.
That was sort of what I was going to speak to too. I think that there is, I would love to see some technical assistance incorporated into our budget somehow, but absent that, or in addition to that, there are quite a number of different institutions in the city that offer that assistance pro bono. But there's usually something of a time lag.
Yeah.
That is there's a couple of different graduate schools. Pratt Center uses their graduate students, NYU has two different, an engineering school and a planning school. If we're proactive about really proposing a meaty study, like a study of Northern Boulevard.
That's a good idea.
But but there's always a couple of months time lag because we have to get it into somebody's agenda for the student to do it during a certain semester.
Yeah.
It's not instantaneous.
I
But
really like that idea, and because, if we can be proactive on some of these things and we aren't time constrained, then we could, align with their.
Exactly,
schedule.
exactly. So I have some contacts that I
Yeah,
would
let's
be,
definitely do that.
yeah.
Danielle?
But to
Go
Kenny's
around.
point, we do have a new mayor, and
Yep.
we do have someone who is from part of our district.
Yeah, that's definitely something we should
Who was
have.
our assembly member.
Yeah.
So, and this is someone who seems open and full of new ideas and wanting to do things different ways, so I think that could be something it should be something.
It's also, it was, memorialized in the law, but it hasn't been.
Right. And it was in Don from Richard's last budget, right? I think,
Yes.
Yeah.
but we all have.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to return to the idea, I think I brought it up a couple of months ago about talking about the Newtown Creek waterfront and you know, I agree that we're pretty low on resources as it stands. Love the idea of bringing folks in, but I do think that we have like a pretty solid group of organizations in this district who work on and around the waterfront. And so, I mean, Gil is always, I think we should just happen every year regardless of whether he's got something to advocate for. As well as like River Keepers and the Newtown Creek Alliance and all these folks. And I do think like every other meeting, having one of those folks come in and talk about it, as well as hopefully pursuing some of these additional resources to dedicate to that is something I'd look kind of on.
Yeah, that's a good one. Maury?
Yeah, I was gonna say about maybe this is a bigger picture of kind of Newtown Creek, but the idea of pollution and how land use can affect, because we have such bad pollution and environment so bad here. I think a few years back, there was analysis by these two professors at Queens College that said we weren't one of the worst. There's like 2 or 3 communities in the entire city, and we were at the bottom. So how can we look at that through a land use perspective, whether it's more parks, addressing their issues like we see in Blissville and all that. And then the other thing was just, how can we engage the community more? A lot of the things, including the property we were just talking about from Jasper's, was, you know, there's a lot of people in the community that are interested that don't even know about the community or don't understand. So like, how can we engage more with the public and get them to engage more?
This is something that we might want to talk to the engagement committee about and see what ideas that we can do for jointly in advance of these ULURPs coming before us.
Yeah.
How do we get neighbors to join?
I mean, also, the engagement committee has been doing great. We had a really successful meet and greet in terms of just trying to get recruitment applications and like just introducing ourselves to neighbors. So that was, yeah, I think they're definitely receptive.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Brad and Anto.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, put some emphasis in that list on the eastern part of the district. You know, kind of piggybacking a little bit on Michael mentioning Northern Boulevard and Roosevelt Ave. I think that there's so much development going on Queens Boulevard, you know, in eastern Woodside, and it's really becoming more of a residential neighborhood, but it doesn't feel like it. There's just tons of vacant storefronts in the new developments. There's really a serious lack of open space, greenery, and so you know, I was a little bit disappointed in. It seemed in the meeting we had with the last meeting, or maybe it was 2 meetings ago, we had with the Parks Department, and they're looking at lots to purchase for public open space. It didn't seem to be a big. They said they couldn't find anything, but I'm skeptical that they were looking that hard. It didn't seem to be. They seem to be more focused on the western part of the district. So I just like to, you know, put that on that list to kind of remember that part of the district really needs some love.
Yep, heard. Thanks, Brad. Anatole, let's go to you. What do you do? You. All right.
Yeah, sorry, I was on my other device. I think when I think proactively, and you know, I got a year and change left on this fine institution. I think many of our committee goals would be served better if we basically empower the engagement committee, right? Like we're all trying to engage the community more. We're trying to fill, you know, the needs, and I'm sure, you know, this has been, we can't be the first people singing this song. I'm looking at our, you know, more tenured members, but we have momentum at the moment, so you know, let's try to keep that going, especially this year. And you know, most of you are going to be on until 2030 and beyond, so that would be, you know, a priority. I suggest that we you know, aim for. The more we empower and engage the committee, you know, hopefully we raise all ships.
Cool, thanks, Anatole. All right, Carissa, Danielle, and then I have a couple of thoughts and we can move on this.
I just wanted to flag also, coming in the pipeline, because it was, announced by Speaker Menon at a conference I was at this morning. The city's about to release, some plan, I forgot what you called it, for affordability. And one that perked my ear was the idea, which was news to me, that they are looking at building housing on top of all of the libraries.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is not new to you guys. Okay, great. So I think that's something we should be, definitely, aware of as it comes into our district. And they also want to locate all of like the BCAS sites, and I think that's something that we've talked about in committee about like figuring out where are all of our public sites here and how can we use them? And the one that keeps popping up is that little triangle of land that we deliberated about coming off of the ramp, you know, and the guy wanted to turn it into like a pizza patio or something, and we're all like, we need to keep our land. Anyway, so in the it's supposed to come out in a few weeks. Housing on top of libraries is beautiful, very interesting. Okay. Blissville, I don't know more than you kind of touched on it, but I don't exactly know what it is, but I think Blissville has to be a priority.
Yeah, that's a good call. Thanks for the reminder. All right, lots of great ideas. I love it. I think we should try to make progress on as many of these as possible.
We will, all of them.
Especially if we can get outside help and we can give them a list of like, hey, these are all ideas that we have. Like, what can you help us with? What are you interested in? Making a semester long project. And that could be cool. Two other things in my mind. One is the waterfront parcel development. So parcels E and D. E has the RFP that's currently live and D is still in progress. So just continue to monitor that and maybe come up with some proactive ideas. I know we've written letters about this in the past. We're just staying on top of that. The other idea that I have, and maybe this is going to be controversial, is Sunnyside Yards. I know that we all know that it's going to get revived again at some point, especially after the success of One LIC. So I wonder if we should get ahead of anything that any other, city or state is trying to do by, again, proactively coming up with a list of like resident-led priorities for any future development in Sunnyside Yards. Again, we won't be able to come up with a plan for it. We don't have the resources or something like that. But what are our priorities if and when something comes up against
It's a double-edged sword though, because it's almost like you don't want to talk about it.
That's true. But I mean, it's not like it's not gonna happen. Like the city knows it's there.
Well, none of us will be here, is the weird thing too.
Yeah.
That is the great, right?
But it's a great idea.
I mean, maybe she'll be. Ryan, can you help us out with some Sunnyside Yards? Okay.
And then the last thing I had was for DCP. I think I would love to get monthly updates on some of these bigger initiatives. So things like, it seems like Walk to Park, we're already gonna get through the Euler process. But things like the waterfront RFPs, the DOE building RFP, even like the Newtown Creek CSO tunnel that, we only hear about once there's like Euler actions happening. If we could get just like regular monthly updates, whatever it is, like a quick couple of sentences on whatever the latest is, I think that would be helpful to stay on top of things.
Definitely. I will take this back and know that a lot of what you mentioned are actually projects that are kind of with other agencies and they'd be more appropriate to speak to the details. So it might be something like coordination with the district cabinet meetings or something. I'm not 100% sure that it's best coming from.
Yeah, that's fair. And they already have other meetings where they're providing updates. If we could just get what the update is, like that's all we need. We don't need to go too in depth every single meeting on all of these.
I'll definitely take it back, but I think that it's just gonna be a conversation with Debbie for sure.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. The last thing I wanted to bring up is I would love to have a vice chair for this committee. So if you are interested, please email me and let me know.
If you need his email, he'll give it to you when we're not being recorded to the public.
That's all that we had for this week or this month.
Real quick, did anybody attend the industrial plan meeting that was, I think, a couple months ago? Okay.
But didn't make it.
Do you mind sending us the link to that report or whatever?
Yeah,
Just so I'm not digging in it.
I can re-up the email. I definitely sent it out.
Yeah, it says they went out from the thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I will dig through my inbox.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
But yeah, the final plan was released, and so that can be reviewed in full.
Anything else on people's minds? Anatole, go ahead. I need to unmute you again. Whoops. Did that work? No, Anatole, we can't hear you yet.
Sorry, great, okay. No, I was just gonna say, thanks again, Katie, Katie and Taekyung and the team for all those extra hours at, the working group and this whole process. So appreciate the dedication.
Thank you, and it's all, same goes to you.
Cool. All right, motion to adjourn.
Yes, I can.
Do it. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
I know.
See.